I will call this meeting to order at 6:01 PM. This meeting is being recorded by committee chairs. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify me at this time. Hearing none, and we do a roll call
President Bottomley,
here.
Vice President Gilmore informed President Bottomley that they would not be attending. Counselor Bullock. Here. Counselor Golub. Here. Counselor Toronto.
Here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
President's notes, the first thing on the decision on open meeting law is a question of where to, it's mostly an update to city council. And it will have the documentation on there and just where we think we want that, like communications with city employees is probably.
It's also in the packet.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine if you want to put there, I'll think of something briefly intelligent to say. Basically, the council was found in violation of two things. Not responding to the person's request within 30 days. And according to meeting law, we were in violation for not reviewing the executive session minutes in a reasonable amount of time. So we're putting together a procedure to avoid this in the future, which is not ready for public consumption, but I would like permission to put on next month's committee chair agenda for review and forwarding to a committee or whatever.
Curiosity, what is deemed a reasonable amount of time?
Yeah, 3 meetings or 3 months.
Holy crap, we're gonna have to do this like every few months.
So it does create a little bit of a cyclical problem. However, I think under open meeting law, if we have an executive session minute that could be sent to, for example, the president and the vice president, for them to review, if it's something that they know is not going to be released. I think there's a mechanism, and this is something that we're still working on, to be able to say, because of litigation, because of client privilege, or whatever the reason that it's being withheld. I think that can simply be told to the council that the minutes are prepared, but they're not ready to be released to the community yet. So I don't think you don't have to have an executive session because of an executive session and then another executive session because that's a.
You just feel like a report on the
Right.
executive session minutes?
Right.
Okay.
Based on the review by the president and the vice president. As advised by maybe me or the attorney.
And we have a head start on that from that when we went through that in January. They now all have a reason listed as why they weren't released,
Right. Or if they were released,
at least at that point.
then they were released out to the public, this gentleman who requested them.
Seeing as how we haven't had any since then.
Right. But we have to review those minutes
Again, of that,
of that executive session. Yes, yep,
in open session. At some point, right? I mean,
if they can be released, yes. Or at least acknowledged in open session that the minutes are
Reviewing in
done.
executive session minutes.
yeah. With redactions,
If need be.
right?
Right.
All right. Well,
Lots of it.
cool.
Mhm.
Convoluted. Awesome.
It's right up there with public records.
Yeah, so I think that's good. We can just do that right
So-
away.
And you want this under other employees?
Yeah,
Other, okay.
because it's gonna be short and I think it's just. Otherwise, I was thinking unfinished business, but that's way at the end. The next one is discussion with GSET. And I was thinking that would probably normally go to Ways and Means, but you have a pretty full agenda for June. I'm thinking it would be better to wait till July for that. Because you have all the CPA transfers,
End of your budget.
there's a lot. If that's okay.
So you want GSET to go to Ways and Means for July, not full council,
Right.
and that's July discussion.
Mhm.
I do have a request for that.
Yeah.
Can you have public comment at the?
I always have public comment,
Okay, you are?
Yeah.
I haven't got,
unless it was deliberation,
okay,
then I didn't have public comment.
perfect.
All of ours have public comment.
That's great. Okay, just want to make sure folks from our neighbors are able to speak.
We just, they won't get answers, it's okay.
Yeah, I want them to be heard.
And hopefully there is a GSET commissioners meeting on Thursday. So we might have more questions after that meeting. And we'll be trying to, hopefully, we'll talk about trying to get documentation for July. Anything we can get, but
I have one other question with this. I'm just thinking, in retrospect, I wish that I had collected people's email addresses when I knocked on their doors, but I didn't. I don't have the email addresses of people in town who are passionate about GSAT. I'm wondering this is a question I should probably already have the answer to, but how can people find out about the meeting? Like, that type of thing. How do we spread the word?
What meeting are we talking? This Thursday GSET or Ways and
I'm
Means?
thinking actually I should have the answer to that about any meeting, but in particular, when GSET comes to Ways and Means for people who want to give public comment there, how does the word get spread about stuff like that?
So meetings are posted on the calendar,
Mhm.
website calendar.
Mhm.
By law, they have to be posted 48 hours prior to. They can always call and ask.
Mhm.
Or email and ask.
Mhm.
I don't know this part. But I know at one point, and I don't know if it's still in the newspaper or not, the newspaper used to print or put in like a schedule of weekly meetings. I think I might be going way back
Yeah, I
though.
haven't seen that in a long time.
But so the website 48 hours before has to be posted according to open meeting law. But they can always email or call. They could call, whatever the board committee or commission is and find out what's planning to be on their agenda.
Yeah.
But 48 hours it has to be posted on the calendar with a full agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
appropriate use of subcommittee meetings to fill in for chair. I believe that was Sheila. And I thought, I don't know if that really goes anywhere other than, I don't know if Kathy wanted to explain. It sounds like we can have anyone fill in.
So in the rules or procedure, the president and vice president can fill a quorum on a subcommittee. A lot of times when someone, and I'm just gonna use you as an example, because June, you canceled A&O. If A&O needed to have a meeting, if there was something pressing or whatever, you could reach out to one of your committee members and ask them to be the acting chair for that meeting.
Okay.
And if there was a question of the quorum, then the president and the vice president could fill in. But because a committee member is more than likely gonna know how you run their meetings and what topics you've discussed and that sort of thing, it would probably be a good idea to have a committee member fill in as the chair
Okay.
and have the president, vice president fill in as quorum.
And, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that was an example. It wasn't anything other than that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, John, from your perspective, if, like Kathy, what you just said is if A and O needed to have a meeting that month,
Mhm.
there could be a fill-in for the quorum. From your perspective, if there's not an agenda for that month, does the committee need to have a meeting that month?
No, I don't think so. I mean.
If there's been nothing said at committee chairs or nothing brought forward,
Right.
then a committee realistically, a committee would cancel a meeting.
Yes, I mean, that's
That's usually what we do here though. Like we'll know by now
Right.
usually if
Right.
there's no meeting necessary. Or if we can push something off, but if there was a time sensitive material or something that just trying to move along and not kick down the road.
Well, and I also wanted to re-articulate that I think sometimes people feel like it's just the chair to come up with an agenda. And counselors can email the chair anything, like discussion topics. It doesn't have to be a actual motion. So I want to try to get that out there too, that anybody, if there's something they want to discuss,
Mhm.
because it really shouldn't be just all on the chair to, all the time. So that was something that I thought of too.
Well, I think it also speaks to like, if a chair happens to, every, whatever, second week or third week. Like we talked about with, school vacations are always during,
Mhm.
right? Full council meetings
Yeah.
is the third week, and it's like, well, somebody's going on vacation that week. If it's a chair, it shouldn't mean that they shouldn't take that vacation or cancel a meeting. Like it's, there are, like you said, there are ulterior ways of doing this. That, if like, hey, I'm gone April break with my kids to Disneyland or something like that, and you're already gonna full council, which means something, but it doesn't mean no quorum. It doesn't mean the chair's not there.
Yeah.
But the night before, I've got Ways and Means, and I know I'm not gonna be there for that either, because I'm gone the whole week. It's gonna be like, hey, like, at least ask somebody else, be like, can you handle that?
You going to Disneyland?
I have not. That's in California.
I went to Disneyland.
Never even been west.
Well, I think that's helpful. My bullet is sort of aligned with that. I don't know if we want to wait or just deal with it now while we're talking about subcommittee meetings.
I wonder, do you think this is something I should mention that in full council, kind of what we just talked about somewhere?
I think it would be useful. I think in last meeting, I clearly erroneously felt like Counselor Gilmore was directing her comment that's now on the agenda at me. But in looking at the sort of trajectory of committee meetings over since January, I realized that community relations hasn't had any meetings either. Or hasn't had any meetings. Economic development has held meetings this year. But so if a chair is having trouble keeping those meeting dates, I think it's important to let the entire council know that this process is available to them. And
Right.
because I think I was under the assumption that it had to be president or vice that was filling in for the chair, that it couldn't just be any other committee member. And the only other thing that comes up, which is the other bullet for me, is that I often text people the morning of the meeting to make sure I'm gonna have a quorum, or email Kathy and say, do we know if we have a quorum? I heard so-and-so's out of town, or whatever. And so I think if we could just have it mentioned that the committee members will let the clerk and the chair know with 24 hours notice, unless of course there's an emergency, that they will be there so that we are sure we have a quorum, because these committees are so small.
We've asked that.
I know.
I was just gonna say,
That was the process at the beginning of, but I think that has sort of fallen to the wayside.
So that's worth a
Very
reminder
big,
too.
I mean, I don't know, for the sake of maybe on the same thread, but on the sake of not maybe having to worry about receiving messages from everybody on it, it's like, if you can't.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
If you can't,
Yeah, if you
assume
can't.
You're gonna be there.
Yeah,
Which you should assume you're gonna be there, right?
Right.
Unless you say something.
yeah, because I just want to be clear, the only time that I have canceled subcommittee meetings is when we have not had an agenda, or we have at the last minute not had a quorum. And so in my mind, those are the acceptable reasons to cancel a committee meeting. But often it's finding out because I am texting ahead of,
Right.
being like, are we sure we have the right amount of people?
Well, that goes for full council too.
Yeah,
Just need to
we
make
need
sure
everyone.
that people respond if they're not going to be there.
Yeah, we need everyone.
So, yeah,
And I do think that just to let people know that it sounds like there's a few different things to let people know at the council meeting, but also if people are wanting to meet and that we don't just meet when there's no agenda, right? That if people are wanting to meet to talk about issues, it's councilors' responsibility to be putting forward things to talk about, whether it's for a discussion or a motion, and that it couldn't hurt to just remind people that
Yes,
that has
yeah.
to be the 5-day rule. Like, and that's when we meet, there's things to talk about, and that they may be called upon to be the chair.
So can I ask, and if we do it now, that's fine, or if you want to send an email, that's fine too. Rather than just have you bring this up at the council meeting, put it on the agenda, bring it up. Maybe we put it in writing.
Yeah,
Okay,
Have it on the agenda. It's in the agenda packet
gotcha.
so that we can say in 2 months.
the memo dated blah, blah,
Look at the
blah.
memo dated blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Like
Love that, Kathy.
tattoo it on your eyelids. You know,
Document.
Thing
Right.
on your fridge.
right. Here's a magnet.
We need a flow chart.
Right, yeah, just something. So we want to talk about attendance and notice of absence. Like, what else? Please send an email.
Can I ask a clarifying question on our previously voted upon policies, one of them being did we not? I know that the ability to have remote meetings got extended
Mhm.
by the state for like another 2 years or whatever, till like 2025 or something like that.
Next year,
Last year.
2025.
Yep.
Yep.
But I remember we did a vote, I believe it was last year, maybe even prior to that extension, that kind of clarified, weren't there like 5 reasons for being able to attend remotely?
So
Those are
that-
from the state.
So that is remote participation, which is not hybrid. Remote participation existed prior to COVID.
Right.
So yes, there are 5 reasons. I don't know if I'm gonna get them all or not. So military service, geographic distance, illness. Blah, blah, blah.
Right,
Right. So those are the reasons for remote participation, which has a separate set of rules
Okay.
that are more strict than hybrid.
I guess I'm confused at that, because I know that we voted on it after COVID. Because this is while I didn't.
Correct.
count.
Because that was when the question of, are they gonna continue the hybrid or not? So it's in place if all of a sudden they say no more hybrid.
Right.
It's in place. But it's a whole different,
We've probably got less than a year, but I would almost want to suggest maybe making a rule change. I don't know how long that'll take. To essentially adopt that for now. Even while,
It is-
for counselors. Like we have hybrid options for obviously for participation of the community.
I'm gonna make a note and look into it, meaning I'll ask Tammy to look into it. Sorry.
I can add to that. So I have not been procrastinating on the hybrid ordinance. I've just been waiting from, wanting to make sure that it's, because this is, influenced by. And so I have language, I'm gonna meet with, someone from the ACLU who has had their lawyers now vet the ordinance that I've worked on and that I met with Matt and Keith and Fernando on. Hopefully we'll have that language. And also updates on Healy's new rules around hybrid and remote meetings that have been updated, at least lately. I don't know to what extent they've been updated, but I'm gonna meet with them. Well, I'm gonna meet with the person from ACLU, and then I want to make sure I vet it with Fernando and Keith and Matt before I bring it to council, but I'm gonna meet with them in 2 weeks. So
Could you include me in that meeting?
yeah, absolutely. I'd be really happy.
Mhm.
Okay, the meeting with my friend from the ACL, that one, we're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff, but the one with Fernando and Keith and Matt, that's good. Kathy?
I would love to, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd be very happy to.
And I think it's extremely realistic that this is just gonna become permanent law in some action of
Right.
the bill. But I think the distinction was that, oh, we have someone waiting. This distinction was that prior to hybrid meetings where we were holding in-person and remote meetings had that set of criteria.
Right.
We did as a council separate from that, like agree, I don't think we took a vote, but there was sort of there was at least a discussion that we had where we said, unless there was like dire circumstances that when people were attending remotely to a meeting and a vote was being taken, you would be on camera.
Right.
There was a couple other things we talked about, which we should probably
I remember that.
memorialize.
Yeah, I remember that like as a newer one. This was one from like,
Yeah.
I said over a year ago.
The way back
The
one.
reason that I'm saying that is also because of the adjustments essentially to the open meeting law that we've heard about more recently that have to do with this, and how we've seen where roll call votes have to be for everything if one person's not there. So it's like really there might be times where it's like, could you just not, like honestly, like, could you just not show up at that way? It'd actually be better if you just didn't show up. If, you know,
Well, I think it would be better for the timeliness of a meeting, but it probably wouldn't be better for the voice of a public body to have every representative present.
right, I get that. Yeah,
We have to remember that there was a time in life where if you were sick, you didn't go. If you were on vacation, you didn't go. And
that's how.
the legislative body and the executive body did continue.
Mhm.
So that's just my old school path.
Right. Well, that's where I'm trying to go with that is if we have a set of rules to follow for a good reason to not be in person participating in it, then it essentially means you didn't exist at that meeting. Instead of making an exemption for, I didn't feel like putting on pants tonight. You know, like, I don't feel like putting on pants most, but you know, here I am.
I trust that most of the counselors are not just like,
No, putting a.
I mean, honestly, I hate attending remotely.
Yeah, me too.
And so, I don't know, maybe I'm totally biased by my own feelings of it. It's like, it's frustrating for me. I can't tell what's going on in the room. You can't read the vibe, like, you can't always hear what's happening appropriately. So like, I feel like there just has to be a general like decorum of trust among our counselors that like, we are in agreement that you come to a meeting unless you really can't come to a
Right,
meeting.
well, those are some of those reasons you just said are exactly why I'm bringing this up, is those are important things about being in a public body together.
Mhm.
Is for those exact reasons. And then also, as we've talked about with other kind of, not to belabor this, but like other rules of procedure and things, you don't know who's coming. We don't know who's coming next, right? So making a generalized rule that there may be people who are fine right now, but who comes in, you know, next term or
Right.
whatever. And if they're seeing that this is now like a thing you can do, like, hey, all right, it may even increase people's, I really hope it wouldn't, but willingness to serve on it, but then also. in a
I
way,
hope it
really help
would.
process. I would, in a way, but
Like,
it's
I
not
think
much,
that
it's
it
not much to
allows,
ask for people to show up in person.
well, I think it does though, if accessibility is an issue. Like, I think you could have a person who is physically unable to attend an in-person meeting, who
And
has
that-
children at home, who
and
can't
that's-
attend an evening meeting, who works an alternative schedule and so would need to, you know, like, I think there's many reasons that, serving in a public body is inaccessible. And personally, I feel that a remote option only increases accessibility, like to like a minute. You know, there's so many reasons that like a whole bunch of people in the town of Greenfield could never serve on city council.
And some of those things are addressed in those policies.
Right.
I think it would be good could you send us what the rules currently, what has been decided on? Just
The rules of procedure
rules
or
for participation, these,
The remote.
yeah, like, or
Or
is that a lot of work?
No, it's right
No, I
here in
just-
Mass State and Mass.gov.
Well, if the council did vote on something that was like, I'm curious what that says. And I do see, I don't see that being the topic of the ordinance that I'm bringing forward. That may be if folks feel called to.
So I'm gonna ask Tammy to look at the remote participation. I believe it was voted by the council to opt back in to remote participation, but we're gonna ask. And then have a conversation again with Tammy, just because she lives in this world 7.5 hours a day. And you know, the attendance and what did we send out at the beginning of the year and what did we request in those little folders that we gave everybody? And so it's just like bullet points to remind people that when you're requesting information, you send the request to the council office and then it goes out to the department. So we have a record of the request, you know, so all of those different things. I can have a conversation with Tammy tomorrow and then, you know, check in with you and if you guys have specific things that you want included, shoot an email or tell me right now and I'll write it down or, you know.
Yeah, it's personal illness, personal disability, emergency, military service, or geographic distance.
Yes.
And like the attorney, the like CMR, section
Mhm.
940,
Mhm.
29.10, the Attorney General does strongly encourage members of the public body to physically attend meetings whenever possible. So like, and members of public bodies have a responsibility to ensure that remote participation in meetings is not used. Members of public bodies have a responsibility to ensure that remote participation is available in meetings. And so I think that like similarly, we could like send a memo to the council, but we don't need to like reiterate what Mass General Law is already dictating
Mhm.
of us. And like, if the Attorney General's strong encouragement to attend a meeting in person isn't working,
Right.
respectfully, Counselor
yeah.
Toronzo, I don't think you're gonna like trump that.
No, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, so.
You send it.
I can send you this link, yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm not saying it just for the sake, I'm saying for the sake of like efficiency and for a lot of things that you were saying about like being able to read the Bible and being able to hear everything that's in the room.
Yeah.
Being able to participate in the best manner possible. It's not, I'm not saying it for the sole sake of like it streamlining the meeting to go quicker because we don't have to take roll call votes. It was an example of why a newer example of how remote participation can get in the way of doing business normally. Even though it increases accessibility in one way, it can get in the way in other factors.
You probably have these, but you just said if there's things that you want to share with the counselors, the things that are like salient and sticking with me from this conversation that I think counselors should know is if there is an agenda, and I have a follow-up question to this, I need to remember. If there is an agenda, if there are agenda items, there will be a meeting. That meeting, if the chair is not able to be there, it will be, the chair will ask someone to facilitate, to chair the meeting. If, please let you know by 24 hours before if they will not be present, because we are counting on people for a quorum and it is unfair to members if they show up and there is no quorum. And it is up to counselors to create the agenda. I mean, unless, you know, the executive is bringing forward agenda items, we're not going to meet if there's not an agenda. But if people are bringing up topics for discussion or for motion, please do that. Those are the things that seem salient to me that I think counselors, and thank you for working on putting that in writing.
Sure.
I think those are key. My follow-up question to that is, I would like there to be an exception, unless you all have good reason not to. For A&O, if there's appointments coming forward and that is the only agenda item, there's nothing else for discussion, which I don't anticipate, like we've been talking about a lot. But if that is the only agenda item, I don't think that we should have to meet just for the appointments, but what do you all think? Like we have not rejected a single thing. There's been like 1 minute of conversation.
But it's not always that way. The problem is usually there's some discretion of the chairs because we've had that here. And if there is one item,
Yeah.
you never know whether the item is going to usually like, I mean, I'm just like Ways and Means sometimes will have routine, maybe 3 or 4 really little things and they could.
Paying last year's bills.
Right. Yeah, there might be a $3 bill from last year that you have to pay and that could just go to full council. So we have skipped occasionally meetings when it's something really
Or I think what happened last month is a perfect example where the meeting was canceled because there was no agenda item in EDC. And then that became relevant again because the executive branch brought forward we thought it wasn't going to be relevant because we thought that the executive order was going to suffice and we weren't going to need to change the language. And then it turned out when we got the opinion that we did need to change the language and bring it forward for a vote. And so then it was like, hold an emergency meeting or miss sort of the
whole timeline.
the whole timeline. And so, but I will say when my tenure on A and O, appointments were very contested. And so there was times where we'd have a 50-50 split and that I don't know how useful the recommendation were. But,
So a 50-50 split is not an approval.
right,
No.
right.
Okay.
We had, where we did have, or we had like no, like it was a unanimous negative recommendation. So that did happen, but I don't know. I don't know. Like this council's pretty, I mean, it's the thing I always say is like, we are not a monolith. Like everyone has pretty strong independent opinions. So I don't know how much the council's recommendation on individual citizens being appointed is gonna sway like my view of if I know, like, you know what I mean? Like,
So two things, the charter does say, and I believe it's up to the body. There's, the council can decide at committee chairs. The city council shall refer each such names, I'm looking at Charter Section 210, council review of certain appointments. The city council shall refer such names as it's submitted to it by the mayor to a standing committee of the council, which shall investigate each such candidate for appointment and shall make a report with recommendations to the city council, not less than 7, not more than 30 days. So, but I also believe past practice shows that appointments can go straight to council. The only authority that council really has is to reject. And that takes 9 votes to reject anyone. Reasons don't need to be given. It just needs to be, so just putting all those pieces out there.
Okay, so that's our housekeeping bit. The next one is code of conduct, which I was thinking would go to A and O because I had Tammy look, it's like this was discussed in 2022. Meetings or was it two, was it just one? I don't remember, but it was a while ago.
yeah,
And then it didn't.
it never went anywhere.
So it seems like it should be resurrected in A and O again and discussed and.
July A and O?
Yes, does that sound fair?
Um,
And maybe we can, I'll try to find out, or maybe Tammy knows when those meetings, it'd be interesting to go back and see
Yeah.
the discussion on that.
Yeah,
'Cause I vaguely remember it.
So this is from September 14th, 2022, from an A and O meeting. This is the last thing we found,
Mhm.
but we can't find any conclusion. There's no
We never-
withdrawal, there's
No, it
no,
never went anywhere.
right. So this says, counselor forwarded an edited draft of the code of conduct to the chairperson in August and request the issue be brought to counselors and asked to have them sign the code of conduct. The chairperson of A and O at that time would forward the draft to the administrative assistant of the council and prepare a motion. But this is the last reference that we had. So in your packets on page 14 and 15, there is a code of conduct for all boards, committees, and commissions of the city of Greenfield that was put out there in December 2006. And although I don't have a date on this one, this is another city, Greenfield Code of Civility.
That was
Oh.
like 2019.
Yeah, I wanted to say like 18, 19, something.
I remember that,
Code of civility.
even though it was before I was here, but I remember it being posted wasn't it posted downstairs on the,
So there is a public code of conduct
Okay.
downstairs on the wall.
Thought they got an update. I mean, I remember that discussion before I was here, but
Is that 2019 piece in the agenda today?
the code of civility.
No, that's right here. It's, Tammy was working on it today, so it didn't make it in the packet and it just is here as a reference. But it was the A and O meeting from 9/14/2022.
Would you be willing? I'd love to have the,
I can ask that it be, that set of minutes be sent to you.
yeah. So the code of civility that was passed in 2019, is that, could you send that to me too?
That was passed, or like, were any of those actually passed?
One of those.
Code of
Code of civility and the code of conduct. So the code of conduct was from the mayor in 2000 executive order. The code of civility. I'm gonna close my mouth because I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it
I
seems like,
remember it being very hot. It was before I was here, it's before I ran. But I remember it being. So first time I ran was 2019, so it was before that. And I remember being a big thing that came up. I think I was in person attendance
Mhm.
at that meeting when it was, so that's why I thought it had gotten posted after it got talked about there, passed or whatever, posted up on the wall downstairs as well. Because I mean, if, I don't know if you weren't there, but if you recall some of the players who were there at the time.
A couple of counselors.
Yeah.
Were getting correspondence. That is downstairs, but that is separate
Okay,
from this. That is hanging downstairs in the little case that the counselors' names are in.
right, that's where I was
Yes.
thinking of it.
Yes.
yeah,
Can't
I
remember
think
what
there's
it's
one
called.
too, right, when you walk in that side door. Right, isn't there, or that's the one?
That's the code of the public.
Public,
conduct.
okay.
Yeah.
It's like, don't yell at us.
Well-
Please don't yell at us, and like a bunch of other things, yeah. I mean, I don't want to be yelled at either.
No,
Since this.
the yelling that caused that to be hung up was not just yelling, just
Yeah.
putting it out there.
Right.
So we're good with that?
And you'll send me everything you have?
I did put a note, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Public hearing for opioid funds?
So there is a process ongoing. I can give, well, if I may not be in attendance, I'm just gonna warn everyone out for this meeting, this month's council meeting. And if I am, it will be remote. But there is ongoing work happening for the opioid abatement funds. There's a steering committee that's being pulled together, some meetings that are happening. Part of a public engagement plan is that I want to hold a public hearing, and, input session. I tentatively would like to do it August 27th or 28th. Although then I just realized in this meeting that I think like that's the first day of school, so that might be like a terrible day to do it. So I will know before the June 20th meeting a potential date, and that will give me time to talk to some other folks in the city departments that are involved about a date.
Can I ask a quick question? Have you talked to the mayor about holding a meeting?
Yeah, we talked about it in our last meeting. Yeah,
Last council meeting?
no, I met with the mayor
Oh,
about
okay.
the opioid abatement funds.
So is
in May.
this public hearing going to be a council public hearing?
Yeah,
A subcommittee public hearing?
anyone from council, I would love for counselors to attend. I would like for it to be a public hearing.
So are we talking about a special council meeting that we now need to go and deliver agendas to and because that's what a special meeting is.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there would be significant turnout for this. It's a lot of money that the city has access to that we have to do in public engagement process to spend.
Why don't we just do that in subcommittee?
Well, that's under the office of the mayor. The
What?
spending of those funds, that's the mayor's decision.
Mhm.
So would the mayor be the one calling the hearing if there was gonna be one,
Right.
or am I wrong?
I mean, I guess the mayor could call a meeting. I think that it's important. I think it's important for the council to do diligence to engage the public in this process. There is gonna be a steering committee that's forming. To help shepherd the engagement process along. And as part of that, I would like to hold a public hearing at the city council level for public engagement around the opioid abatement funds. Many other cities across Massachusetts, I attended a CARES conference about this money a couple months ago. Many other cities have held public hearings that have had really good turnout. Boston's Boston, but great turnout.
I'm wondering, could we put something like that under community relations committee that would already have a scheduled meeting?
I would rather this be like, the idea is to engage the public and so to have large turnout. I think this needs to be held at John's On. And let me talk to the mayor again about this. Maybe potentially when I said public hearing, she thought she would hold the public hearing, but I don't think so. But let me clarify with her. But I would like to hold, and my understanding of the way that we can access public hearings is that any counselor can call for a public hearing on any topic. And then host that hearing, and counselors who want to attend.
Individually,
Right,
you can do that on your own.
and counselors who want to attend may attend,
Mhm.
and counselors who don't have to attend.
Right, so if you're hosting a public hearing, you, Marion Bullock Council Precinct, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
then you're putting the public hearing notice in, you're paying for the public hearing notice. You're doing the legwork, you're sending out that's because my brain says, and I'm sorry if I'm getting too deep in the weeds, but the opioid funds is not under the umbrella of council authority. I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. You want to have public input, you want to, we want the.
we are gonna
council
get a financial
facility,
order sent to us though, that we are gonna have to approve.
But that all financial business comes from the mayor to the council. The
Right,
council then either votes it up or down. You don't have input on what the mayor proposes.
right.
So it's under the umbrella of the executive to propose the opioid funding to be placed here.
Yeah, I think this situation.
You hold the purse strings.
Right.
But you don't get to determine where it goes.
Right, I totally understand that. I think this situation is somewhat unique because this funding is unique funding, and so it requires of it before the mayor can even put forward the financial order for what it is spent on.
Mhm.
It requires a public engagement process. And so the public engagement process that we've sort of started loosely outlining involves like a survey that has already been deployed and will continue to be deployed in new ways, a public hearing at the city level, a sort of cultural event that's held in public, 1 or 2 or 3 public spaces, like, so I totally understand that, like, we have no decision-making power, and my understanding is that the decision-making power, is gonna be within the steering committee that the mayor is going to appoint and in conjunction with the mayor.
I just wonder that usually if you're looking for dialogue, I don't know if that's gonna be the greatest in a full city council hearing is essentially just public comment.
Well,
Right, and
public
that's all-
hearing and input. So like, I just want to, like, many other cities have done this. I watched Boston's because I was like, I want to see how other cities are doing this. And you actually can have back and forth in public hearings. Like you can ask questions of the people who are giving testimony. You can ask a panel to present. So we could ask for like a group of peers from the Recover Project to put together a panel to present in front of us. Let me do a little more research, but I'm just giving fair warning in this meeting that in August, I am going to request a public hearing and input happen, and I will figure out the mechanics.
No, I mean, I just, I'm totally for it. I just don't know what the best avenue is. If it's
Can I
city council
also
or if
ask,
it's-
like, what communities held public hearings? We can contact them,
Yeah.
ask them how they did it,
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
I can
So
email
you're
the
saying
chair.
Boston, that probably wouldn't be the best community
I can,
for us to ask.
I can email the CARES, like they have a capacity building and training team that you can ask questions and they hold trainings and whatever. So
Mhm.
I can email them and ask them what format other towns have done.
Can you include like Tammy or I in the
Yes.
communications, so we, nobody has to then forward it off to.
Yes,
Because my brain, it's like a left-right thing, legislative, executive, there's a gap
mm-hmm,
and there's a reason for the gap.
mm-hmm.
And
Are we definitely sure that we're going to get a financial order on these, that this isn't like
Yeah.
ARPA funding?
Yeah,
We need a
no,
financial order for ARPA funding.
we will. It's in its own like stabilization.
That's right.
fund.
It was put into.
Oh, that's
it was
right.
Put
Yeah.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we made
So-
sure that there was
That's right.
community
So
engagement.
this is gonna come back to next month committee chairs? Is that right? We'll get information and clarify
Yeah, I will
July.
give you information. I mean, July, we have plenty of time.
Funny, yeah, let's talk about that.
Stabilization.
Cause I get, like, we may be the biggest forum to get public interest. Subcommittee meetings, we already talked about that, right?
Right.
Yes, yep. TIF appointee from EDC.
I need to find out if someone wants to do that in our EDC meeting this month.
so this should be on the EDC agenda.
I mean, is that the only thing we'll have on the agenda? That's fine with me if it is, but if
Yes.
someone won't do it, I'll do it, obviously. But I know they have things coming up that they
Right.
need, there's
Yeah.
like applications for them.
And am I correct? There's one for Ways and Means?
Yeah, I already talked with Amy. Is that who's doing it?
Coordinating it, Kaylee.
Amy Kaylin.
Yeah, she re-
Ways and Means, are you?
she reached out to me. I just said, yeah, I'd do it. And-
Oh, okay,
and just,
okay.
It was left at, let me know when you decide on some dates.
So you'll be the TIF for Ways and Means?
Reluctantly.
You're not appointing anyone, or no one wanted to be appointed.
I didn't even bother asking.
You didn't volunteer.
My
Oh,
whole
someone-
committee is brand new. I didn't really feel like putting that on them, so.
How many meetings a year is it? Do you know, just when they have applications?
It's not.
I don't think she said it was maybe a couple.
All right, I'll
I think
just
it's
do
also
it.
during the work week.
Very many, I don't think.
Put it out there.
I'll just.
She didn't mention that. Didn't mention that.
Spill the beans.
During the day.
I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, we gotta get
For an
to-
employee. to-
That's better for me.
Yeah, if it's during the day.
Take- Can you take
Taking
the
time off
TIF
from work.
appointee off and just make it me,
Okay, so.
especially if it's during the day? I'd rather
And
take an hour of PTO.
EDC.
Then I won't guarantee that I have an appointee at this point. Cause I can't, if these are daytime meetings, you can't ask people to leave work for this. Like,
Okay,
we're volunteers, essentially.
so you're it for EDC, you'll be good. And I'm scratching out my note that you were it.
So maybe.
It depends on their schedule. I guess I will do it if it's reasonable time, but she didn't mention anything to me about them being daytime. She didn't mention they would be nighttime either, but I imagine any border commission would be after hours, after work hours, because if you have people who are.
Do you want to check with her?
Sure.
Okay. Mike, Ways and Means, TIF. Mike, we'll talk to Amy. You can always remote,
Okay, working.
Right.
put an earbud in. Just teasing.
Next one, reappointment of Catherine J. Scott to city clerk.
Oh, brutal.
Thanks. No.
I thought she was gonna be the one saying no.
Yeah, just go right.
Roll call. No.
I'd probably just quit if Kathy left. I'd be like, I'm out too.
Right.
Forget it. It's gonna get too messy.
Believe me, as soon as I can, you'll know.
Yeah.
So that can go right to council. And then mayor's appointments, reappointments. To A and O.
That's going to need to go, well,
Oh, full council, that's
I
right.
mean. Can we apply these new agreements to July? Because I would feel badly having told A and O members that we're not meeting in June and then surprise them with a meeting just for these appointments. I understand that from now on, if there's appointments, we will still meet, but can these go straight to the floor this month just because everybody
Oh, yeah, I think that's good, yeah.
was anticipating no meeting?
I mean, how does everyone feel? I think they could probably just go right. I'm just looking at, yeah, because I'm just worried about I haven't looked at the makeup of the committees. I'm sure they probably want people to stay appointed to these. So probably just doing it at full council is good.
Yeah.
End of year transfers, there's a whole bunch. That's Ways and Means. And then on to our committees.
Those are, didn't those? None of those require first and second readings, though, is that correct?
Because it's the end of the year, again, it's in Mass General Law and in the charter, there's a certain window at the end of one fiscal year, the beginning of another fiscal year, where if it's to balance the previous year's budget,
Right.
it can just go through in one fell swoop. And
So
this
it's one
meets
straight
that
recommendation. both.
straight recommendation, go into council, get it done, no first, second. Yeah,
Okay,
Wow,
so this meets the criteria.
it's reading.
I mean, it's 2 times.
Economic Development Committee,
So it's kind of exciting.
so we don't
Nothing.
have anything, right?
Kathy, could you put a call out to my committee for agenda topics, like to send within the next, I mean, really, it has to be like day or something,
Mhm.
or the meeting will be canceled.
Question about that though, I mean, is that? I want to make sure that new counselors respect the 5-day rule. And so I'm wondering, is that different? Does the 5-day rule apply to discussion topics? Like I saw you
It's an
say,
agenda topic, it's in the agenda, right?
the 5-day.
Oh, yeah, we'd need it by today.
Yeah,
All right, we're canceling this meeting, but I'm seriously just saying, like, if anyone wants to give me crap next month, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind.
Yeah,
Because no one sent me anything for this agenda. So this is like a prime example of like, there's
Gotcha.
there's
We got
nothing
you.
on the agenda.
There's nothing on the agenda.
No one sent me anything for the agenda. I'm biting the bullet for the TIF committee.
yeah. No, I think that holding that standard to respect your times isn't, yeah.
And then,
No, you keep it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
so A and O canceled this month.
Wait, did you just say there's gonna be one thing on there though?
Oh, no.
There was gonna be the TIF,
Oh,
but then I just said I'll take it.
Volunteered to take more work, so.
Yes.
So-
No one said they wanted to be on it, like, you know what I mean, so. I mean,
Yeah, so no A and O, no CRC. And then Ways and Means has all those transfers plus the community preservation items. And year-end transfers. Into the draft of city council. The only thing we were adding was,
mayor's appointments.
I mean, I think really the CPA stuff should go to EDC as, you know, preserving is developing.
It does have to do with the economy. And on that note, we'll move along.
No book report.
Yeah, so we're just gonna add communications with city clerk on that, open meeting law.
Okay,
Otherwise. What's that? For all these are. Add mayor's appointments, otherwise these all look good. And there are no first readings. Is that everything?
I just wanna, the only thing, this is not a change or anything, just to flag for you all that the elderly and disabled taxation fund. We, I believe it was 5-0 recommended to positively to send that forward. But, and we voted on that in May because we knew we wouldn't meet as a subcommittee in June. But we didn't want to take time on the budget meeting, so that came forward and that's on the agenda, just to flag things.
Also. I was gonna ask you, Travis Drury, the chair of the Community Preservation Act Committee. Wanted to know if he should be present to either present or answer questions at the Ways and Means, since you guys are reviewing all the CPA stuff.
Sure, if he's so willing.
Yeah,
we'll
well,
invite Travis.
I think that was all I had.
So are we inviting him to present or just respond if necessary?
We'll invite him to be there for questions.
Thank you.
So I think unless there's anyone has any more comments or questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move that.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Hi.
We are adjourned at 6:58.
Great.